Hi guys, welcome back to 100% Mags. So we are here again live on YouTube, and we are of course going to be talking about the transfer window, of course, and my verdicts on the transfer window, which closed of course yesterday at 7 p.m. UK time, and let's see, how Newcastle did in the window. My thoughts on how we did in the window of ingoings and outgoings, of course, from the club. And where better to start, of course, than the players that left the club. We might as well start with the main one that left the club, which is none other than Alexander Isak. He left the club, he went to Liverpool, 130 million transfer the day before deadline day. It was all done, of course, on deadline day, the transfer after the announcement the night beforehand. And we've seen the statements, we've seen what he's put out. And for me, good riddance to him, because what he has done in Newcastle United in the 3 years that he was here, he would have been respected for, but he's not going to get that respect now because he's left. He's went to Liverpool, and if he had left in a better fashion than what he did, then he would have got some respect from where I would think. But the way he's done it, the way he's handled it, it was all wrong. The whole situation has been handled poorly by him. But he's gone now. He's left the club. 130 million off to Liverpool. We don't have to hear about him anymore. So let's move on away from him and look at the other players, of course, that have left the club. Now, I wouldn't say Lloyd Kelly counts, to be honest, in this window because he left in January, before the summer window even began. So I wouldn't really count that one. But if you did want to count it, 20 million for a player that came on a free, that is a pretty good deal, to be honest. It really is. Decent bit of money in there. He didn't really do much forward in the time that he was here, Lloyd Kelly. And he moves to Juventus in January. Of course, this was that he moved to Juventus for a 20 million fee. Then we'll move on to Jamal Lewis, who was released from the club. It never really worked out, unfortunately, for Jamal Lewis. Looking at him, it's sort of bitter moment for the poor lad. He came in, looked like a very promising lad in Norwich, and the other teams that he was at before he came to Newcastle United. But then when he came to Newcastle, Jamal Lewis just didn't seem to really be able to get a chance to hit the ground running forward. So I feel, that one is a really good deal. Yes, we've not gotten anything off of him. He's left on a free, but I mean, it gives the lads a chance to move on to get another chance elsewhere. Callum Wilson was a little bit of a sad one to see, to be honest, and moving away from Newcastle. We did offer him that pay-as-you-play deal, but he's now, of course, at West Ham. He scored for West Ham, of course, as well. And for me, that one is a little bit of a sad one to see, because Callum Wilson did a lot for the club during the dark days of the club as well, and he was a very good servant. So he goes, with our blessing on that one, because he was a really good player. Just unfortunately, by the time it come to the back end of his career at Newcastle United, he was getting a lot of injuries, and he just wasn't the player, that he was when he first came through the doors at St James's Park. But a really good deal to see, him going away. Would have been nice to at least get something for him, though. But a free transfer move to West Ham, and that is my thoughts on, of course, that one. Sean Longstaff, 12 million move to Leeds. I feel for Sean Longstaff, having to move away from Newcastle, he's had to go through the similar sort of situation to Ellie. Just at least it has been softened a little bit for Longy in the fact that, he was able to win the League Cup with Newcastle before he has departed the club, unlike Ellie, who had to depart and go to Nottingham Forest, whilst we still had a chance of going on, to win the League Cup, which we did obviously then go on to win the League Cup. And that's something, that Part Ellie ended up having to miss out on because of the whole PSR situation that we had to deal with, of course, last season. But 12 million fee for Sean Longstaff, to Leeds United, a really good fee there. And credit to Longy, deciding to do the move, get the move away from Newcastle United whilst he still had time left on his deal. And he was adamant that he wanted Newcastle to get money for him and he didn't want to be moving away on a free. So credit to Longy on that one. That shows the loyalty and the pride that he has for his club and his area, one of our own, doing what is best for the club and moving on, so he goes with our wishes and he's, of course, played with as well already when we went down to Elland Road, of course, this season. Looking at Martin Dubravka, another one, undisclosed fee to Burnley. He served one really well, solid keeper over the years, come in for about 3 million, I believe it was, during the Rafa period at the club. And, he's done some really, really good stuff. But touching on a player that we will talk about, of course, when we get to the incomings, with the incoming of Aaron Ramsdale to the club, it was probably time that Martin Dubravka did move on from the club, in my opinion. And Vlachodimos was seen as well going out on loan to Sevilla. Of course, it was a merry-go-round. It was, for goalkeepers. We were seeing, Dubravka go, Vlachodimos go. Vlachodimos, unfortunately, he came in as part of that deal for Ellie Anderson to Nottingham Forest. And unfortunately, Vlacky didn't really do much, at Newcastle. Vlachodimos didn't really do much at the club, in his time here. But he goes, of course, out on loan. He's in Spain now. And from what I've heard on that deal, it is an obligation to buy in there as well. So we might see him move on, of course, come January or in the summer window of next season. Then another one that was seen depart from the club on a loan is Matty Target. Matty Target, of course, coming in a while back as well. And, one of the players that came in during the first few seasons of the Saudis own him with. And it's not a surprising one, to be honest. Matty Target does need the minutes. He wanted first team football. He wasn't going to get that at us. So it's a decent move. He goes on loan, of course, to our rivals, Middlesbrough, of course. And I think there probably might be some sort of obligation in there, maybe for a move, if Middlesbrough see fit to, sign him on a permanent deal. But going on now to what we really want to look at, which is the incomings in this transfer window. I mean, when you put the whole Alexander Isak stuff to the side and you look at this window for what we have brought in, this has been a fantastic window. It's been a window of mixed emotions with what's been going on with the Isak situation. But when you just look at the incomings that we have brought in, you're looking at some really good star quality coming in, some immense strength coming in through the doors in this window as well. We're seeing, of course, the free signing of Antonio Cadera. I mean, that one is one of them low-risk punts, costs us nothing because he comes in for free from Malaga. He's already went out on loan, of course, for this season to the Dutch league, to the Belgian league, and he's playing his trade over there, applying his trade over there, shall I say, and he's got a load of potential, this lad. He's a huge youth prospect on the Spanish scene, and if he develops well, then it's going to be really good turnout for us. If not, we'll lose nothing at the end of the day because it's a free transfer. All we've had to pay for this lad is his wages and maybe a little signing on fee, for the lad. But I mean, I've seen this lad play in the unders tournament, of course, for Spain in the summer there, and he was absolutely amazing. Really good talent, just at the moment, still very young, still very raw, still needs to hone his skills a little bit, but from what I've seen of him so far, he looks absolutely amazing. So Antonio Cadera for me is definitely a success on that one so far. Moving on to Anthony Elanga for 55 million from Forest, a big fee, a massive fee. But when you look at what he does bring to the team, he's got pace, he's got direct ability. He'll cause defenses, problems all season long. We've already seen him play 3 games forward already, and this season in the league, and he's looked really, really good. He's doing some really good stuff, and now that we've got the striker in there to go along with it, that is going to be a huge boost for us, because now we're going to get to see what Elanga can really bring to the table, with him having that finishing piece there of the striker, what we haven't had in the first 3 games of the season because of the whole situation with Isak going, of course, to Liverpool and wanting his move to Liverpool, and eventually got it, of course. But for me, this is a really good signing. Anthony Elanga, look at what he did at Forest last season. He was one of the pivotal points to why Forest got to where they are in playing European football. So for me, that is a successful player to be bringing in. Just have to see what he does, of course, at Newcastle United this season under Eddie's guidance. Looking at Aaron Ramsdale is another one, loan from Southampton. Smart move this, by the way. Brings competition into goal, experienced Premier League proven goalkeeper, and he doesn't tie us down long term either. So it does make sense on that one, because it means that we do have the option to buy on him. And from what we've seen of him so far, we've only seen a little bit of him at the moment, but from what we have seen of him so far, he looks really good. He knows how to play with his feet with the ball, which adds that little extra dimension towards the attack, like we've seen Martin Dubravka doing last season. Something that Nicky Pope doesn't really do, but we have seen Nicky trying it a little bit, and that might be because he does know that Aaron Ramsdale is there and he can play with his feet. So Nicky trying to adapt his game a little bit to try and keep himself in that number 1 spot between the sticks for Newcastle United. But moving on to Malik Chow from AC Milan, a strong, commanding centre-half, somebody we've been screaming for, to come in Newcastle United. We've been screaming for that right-sided centre-back to come in and be, that replacement or rotation player for Fabian Shaw, because Shaw has been an absolute workhorse for this club from the moment that he signed in the Rafa period for, I think it was like 3.5 million, and he has been an absolutely amazing servant for the club, Fabian Shaw. And Mali Chow, of course, when we get to see him, will hopefully be that replacement player to come in for Shaw. Looking at what he's done, in the Serie A, he was very, very good over there, even to the point where Paolo Maldini wanted, Mali Chow and Sven Botman in a partnership. We have both of them now. That shows, the depth and the experience that we have in our back line this season, and how much we have built our team up, since the Saudis have come in. I think he'll slot in well alongside Shaw or Botman. A proper statement signing this, so really good player, and I think we'll see a lot more of him after this international break, especially in games like the one against Barcelona in the Champions League. I think we'll see a lot of him in that kind of setting in the Champions League, European settings. Maybe he's in some of the cups as well. And then, moving on away from Mali Chow, we have, of course, Jacob Ramsey, which is just a really good coup of a player. 43 million from Aston Villa. Aston Villa, of course, having their problems with PSR, and that is one of the reasons why they weren't able to get William Asula on the last day of of course, the transfer window on deadline day because of UEFA spending limits stopping them from going ahead with that. But Jacob Ramsey, we've been able to capitalise getting him in from Aston Villa for 43 million. He's energetic. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He has loads of running pace in him. And the price is a bit of a chunky price, of course. I'm not going to lie on that. But he's Premier League proven. He's still young. He could end up being a really solid piece of business for it. We know what Eddie Howe's like at turning great players into amazing players and then into world-class players. So let's see what he can do, with the likes of Jacob Ramsey. He's going to add that little bit extra depth in there as well. And when you put it as an example against, the outgoing Sean Longstaff, we're bringing in somebody like Jacob Ramsey. Obviously, he's not one of our own, but he's coming in to replace Sean Longstaff, who was barely really getting into the team. But I can see Jacob Ramsey, pushing for their minutes ahead of, the likes of some of the other players that are in that midfield for us, the likes of Sandy, Bruno, Big Joe, are obviously going to be starters, but he's going to be pushing for minutes up against the likes of Miley and other lads in there as well, the likes of Willock in the midfield. So that is a really good piece of business by Eddie and the lads, of course, on the backroom team, trying to get some quality players in and add that extra depth to the team going forward. And that takes us on to, of course, one of two strikers that we now have at the club. One is a replacement for the outgoing Callum Wilson, and one, of course, as the replacement for the outgoing Alexander Isak. And let's start with Nick Voltemera. 69 million from Stuttgart. That is a big fee. Don't get us wrong, but I mean, nearly 70 million for a player that at the moment has only played in the Bundesliga. But it's a serious amount of money. Its expectations are through the roof on this one, with him being a pretty big player. He's 6'6". We've seen what he can do in highlight reels. If you've watched him, in the summer in the under-21s, you will have known that he got the golden boot for Germany in the under-21 tournament. So, looking at this lad, he looks an absolute beast. He looks like he's going to be, a sort of Zlatan Ibrahimovic kind of player. There's a lot of people going around saying that he is a mix between Ibra, Thomas Muller. He's a mix between all these different players like Lewandowski. But what we really need to do is let the lad play, let him show us what kind of player he is. And from what we've seen of him in, the highlight reels, and if, like I say, you've watched him in the under-21 tournament, like I did watch him in the under-21 tournament in summer, this lad has got a lot to give. He's got a lot of ability there. He's got a lot of potential there. And I think this lad is going to surprise quite a few people when he does pull on that black and white shirt at St James's Park, and when he finally plays his first game for, which I think will be, of course, probably against Wolves. But I mean, this lad looks really good, really, really good, and I think a lot of people are going to be very, very surprised at this signing of Nick Voltemera. And of course, he's coming in as a replacement for Alexander Isak in my eyes. And then we'll look at, the replacement for Callum Wilson. I think we've done really well there, because that is a replacement of Callum Wilson being Johan Wissa coming from Brentford for 55 million. Yes, it's a little bit more money than what was originally quoted for Johan Wissa when it was 25 million that was being quoted, and now it's 55 million that's being quoted. But I mean, he knows the Premier League. He's powerful. He's pacey. He can play across the front line. Just look at what he's done at Brentford. Look at what he's done when he's played against us as well. He's been amazing when he's played against us. And I like this one. I really do. I think he's reliable. He works hard, and he'll chip in well with the goals another big fee, but I can see, him fitting in very well with our play style. I can see him really fitting in here. And he seems to be happy, looking at his video that he did, his interview he did on signing for Newcastle United. He seems to be really eager and happy to be here and, wanting to get started and wanting to build something huge, with Newcastle United wanting to win trophies. And that is the kind of players that, we want in the team. We want, as many players like Bruno and Sandy and Big Joe-esque type players, that really want to play for the shirt. They really want to give their all out there on the pitch. And by the time that final whistle's blown, they want to be, lying flat on their back on the ground, absolutely exhausted because they know they've given their all out there on the ground, for us. And that is the kind of players that we do want to be seeing. So let us know your thoughts, of course, either in the live chat or down in the comments below on, of course, how this transfer window has gone. I will be putting a poll up on the community page to rate the rate this transfer window out of 10. For me, if I had to rate this out of 10, there's always room for improvement, so I'm obviously not going to rate it 10 out of 10. But if I did have to rate this transfer window out of 10, I would give it a 9.5 rating. I feel this is a very good window. We've got some really good talent here coming through the doors, the likes of Elanga, Ramsdale, Mali Chow, Jacob Ramsey, Nick Valdermera, Johan Wissa. We've added depth right across the board. And looking at it, it's been a very successful transfer window. It really has. When you put, the whole Alexander Isak stuff to the side and you just focus on what we have brought in. We've brought strength across the attack, the midfield, the defence, the goalkeeper. We've brought it all in. We've done so well with it. And I feel it's been a very transformative window, and a lot of people are allowing the whole Isak situation to cloud that, positivity that should be around this window, because this has been a really good window for us. It really has. Hiya, Paul, mate. Hope you're doing well. But like I say, yeah, it's been a very, very positive window. Obviously, we'll look at the points of it, and yes, we've spent big, we've shown ambition, which is good. We've strengthened all across the attack, the midfield, the goalkeepers, in the defence. We've brought in players who can make an impact now and in the future. But of course, there is some little concerns about it as well. Obviously, the price tags for some of the players. But, I mean, looking at the players, you're going to have to pay these prices anyway. Looking at, some of the players that have been knocking around in the transfer window, we're seeing, price tags for Adam Wharton at Palace being at 150 million. I mean, the money is in the game now. It's going to cost a lot more for players. Even for an average player, it's going to cost you, say, 20 to 30 million for to get an average player into the team. And, looking at what we've signed, I feel they are really good prices and are bargain prices for what we've signed. The likes of Elanga, Wissa, Valdermera, they're really good bargain prices for them kinds of players. Because they've got a lot to give. They've got a lot of potential there. We've lost some experience, obviously, in the likes of Wilson and Longstaff, but we've made up for that, in the likes of Johan Wissa and Jacob Ramsey coming in, who can add that pace and the ability to chip in on the goals and the assists. So that's a good positive, even though some people might say that is a concern. I see that as a positive because we've got two players in the likes of Johan Wissa and Jacob Ramsey who can chip in with assists and goals. Whereas Callum Wilson, like I said, he was out for quite a bit of the season last season, and Longstaff as well. He was struggling to push for the minutes ahead of the likes of Sandy, Bruno, and Joe Linton. But we're seeing Jacob Ramsey already getting in the side. We'll be seeing, of course, Johan Wissa playing on a regular basis as well. And the new lads will obviously need to settle in, but every player needs to settle in at the end of the day. So in my eyes, I'd say it's a success. Overall, bold, ambitious, we'll look stronger and we're deeper. Now we've got much bigger depth with team, and I've got to say, it's a really good transformative season. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. What was your thoughts on the transfer window? And like I say, I will be putting a post up on the community page of the channel, of course, for you to rate it out of 10. And if I had to rate it, like I said, I'd rate it a 9.5. I don't ever really want to say it's a 10 because there is always room for improvement. So in my eyes, a 9.5 for this window is a really, really good rating for, of course, what we have done, because it has been a very good transformative window. And I hope you all agree. I hope if you do, please hit a like on the video. If you don't agree with us, then, of course, hit the comments section and let us know what you think down in the comments below about it. And looking at one more comment before we go, Jody Dread, hi mate, hope you're doing well. Big up my Jody bro, my content with the squad, all things considering. Yeah, exactly mate. It's been a really good window. It really has. And I fully agree with you. It's a really good transformative season, transformative window, shall we say. And let's see, what we can do this season. I mean, last season we won the League Cup. Who knows? Maybe he would go and defend the League Cup down in Wembley again. Maybe he's had another cup there as well. But it's a little bit early to be, throwing out predictions. I don't want to be that kind of guy. I want to, give Eddie the chance to see what these lads can do. I don't want to be applying pressure and unnecessary pressure onto the players because that isn't right, and especially the likes of Voltemeda. He's only a young lad. He's just new to the league. He's never played over here before, so I don't want to be applying pressure to these kinds of players. But obviously, looking at what he can do, he's going to be a really good player. I can see it. I've watched so many games over the years of football, and I've got to the point now where, like most fans, when you see a good player, and Voltemeda and Wissa are right up there as good players in my eyes, and Alanga as well, and the other lads that we've signed, all really, really good players. Anyway, hit that like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to head out here, lads, and I'll see you all in the next one. However.